Hey, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to dig into something called precision agriculture. It's this tech revolution that is completely changing how we grow our food, literally from the ground up.
So think about this. For like ever, farming has basically been a game of averages, right? You treat these huge, massive fields as if every single inch is exactly the same. But what if we didn't have to do that anymore?
What if we could get super specific, like precision surgery, for every single field, giving each little patch of land exactly what it needs, no more, no less? That's the big idea we're going to unpack today.
All right, so to really get why this new approach is such a big deal, we first have to talk about the fundamental problem with the old way of doing things. You could call it farming's big blind spot.
So, for centuries, the game plan has been simple. Apply the same amount of water, the same amount of fertilizer, the same amount of seed across the entire field. I mean, it seems efficient, right? But it's all built on this one huge false assumption, that the field is perfectly uniform.
But here's the reality. Just look at this map. No field is one solid block. It's actually a super complex patchwork, a mosaic really, of different soil types, different moisture levels, different nutrient needs. And when you ignore all that variability, you end up wasting resources. You're overwatering some spots, under-fertilizing others, and that just means waste and, honestly, lost potential.
Okay, so how do you fix a problem like that? Well, you stop guessing and you start using data. This is where a much smarter approach starts to take root.
So here it is, the official definition. Precision agriculture is basically a strategy where you gather and analyze all sorts of data to make better decisions. Or, to put it simply, you use tech to see all those differences in a field, and then you manage it piece by piece, zone by unique zone, instead as one giant uniform block.
Yeah, that formal definition can be a bit of a mouthful, but really, it all boils down to this incredibly simple and powerful idea: doing the right thing in the right place at the right time. That's it. That's the mantra.
And to really grasp how big of a deal this is, you gotta see it in context. We are not talking about some small little tweak here. This is being called the third great agricultural revolution. First, we had mechanization in the 1900s, then the Green Revolution in the 60s, and now we have this, the data revolution. Each leap has just massively boosted our ability to feed more and more people.
Okay, so what does this actually look like out on the farm? Let's pop open the hood, so to speak, and check out the precision toolkit, all the tech that makes this whole thing possible. It really works in a simple three-step cycle. Step 1, you gather a ton of information, from sensors, satellites, soil samples, you name it. Step 2, you use technology, things like GPS and AI, to crunch all that data and create a game plan. And then step 3, you use smart equipment to actually execute that plan with pinpoint accuracy.
Yeah, just look at this tractor, for example. That's not just any old tractor. The GPS on board knows its exact location, down to the centimeter. At the same time, you've got these on-the-go sensors that are constantly scanning the soil or the plants, collecting data in real time. So the tractor isn't just driving, it's observing and reacting moment by moment.
And that reacting part? That's usually done with something called variable rate application, or VRA for short. And there are kind of two main flavors of it. You've got the map-based way, which is like loading a pre-planned route into your GPS before you leave. And then there's the sensor-based way, which is more like making decisions on the fly, reacting to live traffic as it happens. Okay, so all this fancy tech and all this data, what's the payoff? What does it actually achieve? Let's get into the results and see the real-world benefits. Well, a big study back in 2021 found some pretty amazing numbers. Farmers using these techniques saw their production go up by 4%. But here's the really cool part, the kicker. They did that while using 7% less fertilizer and 9% less herbicide. I mean, that's the definition of a win-win, right? And the savings don't stop there. The same study documented a 6% drop in fossil fuel use. Now that's great for the farmer's wallet for sure, but it's also a huge plus for sustainability.
And how about water? In a world where water is getting more and more scarce, this is a big one. A 4% saving in water use. The old saying goes, more crop per drop, and this technology is literally making that happen.
Okay, but it's not all a perfect success story. Adopting this stuff isn't as easy as just flipping a switch. So to get the full picture, we've got to talk about some of the very real challenges farmers are facing out in the field. And these hurdles are pretty significant. First off, the initial cost for all this equipment can be really high.
Then you've got the headache of managing all this data coming from different systems that, a lot of the time, don't even talk to each other. You also need a whole new set of skills to make sense of the data. And on top of all that, there's some really valid concerns about data privacy. Like, who actually owns and controls all this valuable farm data? And this quote, this really nails the human side of the challenge. It says, "Many farmers complain they have more data than they know what to do with." And that's the thing, right? It's not just about having the tech. It's about figuring out how to turn this overwhelming flood of information into simple things you can actually go out and do.
All right, for our last section, let's look ahead. Because even with all those challenges, the potential here is so massive that it's already shaping the entire future of how we produce food.
You know, you see a diagram like this, and it can look pretty complex, but the core idea is actually pretty simple. We're moving past just having a bunch of individual cool tools. The future is a completely integrated smart farm. Think of it like an Internet of Things, but for agriculture. Everything, sensors, drones, robots, they're all connected, all talking to each other, and automatically optimizing the whole system.
And all of this leads to one final, really provocative question. Think about it. We started by managing fields as these huge, uniform blocks. Now we're managing them in precise little zones. So what's the logical next step? Well, it's managing them plant by individual plant. Could that level of precision, treating every single plant as its own data point, be the key to sustainably feeding, say, 10 billion people on this planet? That's the big question that's driving the entire future of farming.